Hi everyone, and welcome to the fourth edition of In the Fox's Den. So far we've had an author, we've had an actor, and we've had a photographer. But today I'm really happy to say we've got a real icon, and he is really Mr. Versatile. He has been in films, he's been a pop star, he's been in musicals, and a star of stage and screen. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to the wonderful JESS CONRAD OBE. Hi, Jess.
Hi, Rick. How wonderful for you to see me.
It is indeed.
I've still got a square thing on my thing here.
That'll be all right.
That goes off, I hope, hopefully. I'm looking at a white patch over your face.
You're looking at a white patch over my face. That's a lot of people would say that's a lot better.
This meeting is being recorded, it says. That's better.
Is that better? I'm not seeing any difference at this end.
Well, at least you can see that I'm sitting here at my home.
Yeah,
in lockdown. Yes, Rick, I've had a long and illustrious career, if you like to call it that. Obviously, when I was a young boy going to school, it was the Second World War, and I used to go to school with a gas mask under my arm, picking up bits of shrapnel on the floor. And when we got to school, we used to barter for bigger pieces or different shapes. And I remember the war years, when I think back very strongly. And then, of course, me starting in show business. I was born in Loughborough Lying-in Hospital, which makes me a true Cockney. And I grew up in Brixton, South London. And we were very privileged to be in South London, in Brixton, especially Brixton Hill, because a lot of pros lived up Brixton Hill. I don't know why, but it was quite close to the West End, I guess. But a lot of pros lived up in Brixton Hill, and we had 4 cinemas, and the Astoria Brixton was sensational. They had a swimming pool in the foyer, bigger than my swimming pool here, and statues everywhere. And I would go to the cinema at least twice a week. We had the Brixton Empress and the Camberwell Palace, where I saw people like Arthur Luke and Old Mother Riley and Wee Wood, and I sat, obviously being a poor boy, I sat with my mum up in the Circle, and we used to go there every Monday, and I think it was 6pence to sit upstairs in the Circle. And I just loved show business because, as I say, I went to the cinema at least twice a week, and I went to the Variety Theatre. And then when I got a lot older and found my way into the West End, I used to stand at the back of the London Palladium for 5 shillings, stand through the whole show and see people like Laurel and Hardy, Sophie Tucker, you know, Guy Mitchell. You know, little did I know then that JESS CONRAD, when he grew up, did so many shows at the Palladium, at least a dozen.
Yeah.
But you know, when I was a young boy, a 12-year-old boy, would he have been happy with the way he grew up and what he achieved? And that 12-year-old boy would not believe what he achieved. You know, the fact that he became a pop star, a film star, and all the wonderful things that happened to me over my years.
One thing he wouldn't have believed, Jess, was that all these years later, you still don't look a lot older.
Well, thank you for that. There's nothing wrong with your eyesight, although you are wearing bins.
I am wearing glasses, but that helps me to see that you're looking.
Excuse me wearing a hat, but my daughter Natalie is a famous hairdresser, and she said, "When are you working next, Dad?" Pops the Rocker, she calls me. I said, "Well, it probably won't be till Christmas now." So she shaved all my hair off. So that's why I'm wearing this hat.
You've got the hat with Tramp written on it.
Tramp, it's Tramp, you know. This is the best showbiz club in London, and I've been an honorary member since 1960. So that's So it's been a long journey, A
So
long,
tell
long
me,
journey.
so tell me what happened first, because obviously you've had hits as a pop star. You've been on stage in musicals,
Yes.
and you've been in films. So what
Yes, I've had,
what
you know,
started?
it's been a very, very mixed bag. And it started off with me being a great fan of the business, never thinking for 1 second that I would be in the business. And directly I became a teenager. Brixton then was old hat for me, and I made my way into the West End. So I was a West End boy. Actually, then I could get in every cinema free in the West End. I knew the way to get in everyone free. The only one I couldn't get free was the Hippodrome on the Piccadilly Circus, and I had to drop the man, the doorman there, £0.50. But all the others I bunked in different ways, you know, new ways into all the cinema. So I love my West End life. And I went to see a film called Caesar on Complatria. Yes, the teeth. Yes. And I went and had a coffee afterwards in a cafe in Soho. And all of a sudden, sitting opposite me was a fella that I'd just seen on the screen. His name was Larry Taylor. He had a very distinctive face, great, good big face. It wasn't a big part he played. It was, you know, the fourth centurion from the left type of thing. But it was a person that was in a film. I've never seen anybody or met anybody that was in a film. A film? I'm sitting with somebody that's been in the movies. And I went, God, love a duck. I said, I've just seen you in a movie. He went, yes, you know. And I said, how'd you get into show business? He said, well, you're a good looking fella. So I said, well, there's nothing wrong with your eyesight. No, I didn't say that. And he said, I said, yeah, but how do you get into show business? So he said, well, you can go around to a lady who runs the Film Artists Association. It's a little door round by the stage door of the London Palladium.
And how old were
I
you
said,
at this point, Jess?
how old?
How old were you
I don't
then?
know. I was 16, probably 18.
18.
Probably 18. Probably 18, yeah. So I went to see this woman, and I know I could charm women then, and it's one of the things that I've been quite good at doing all my life. So I went there and I smiled and I charmed her. And in those days, of course, when you're a film extra, you had to wear your own clothes unless it was a period piece. And in those days, people didn't even have swimsuits, not everybody. So the first thing like was, did you have a swimsuit? Yes. Do you have a pair of grey trousers? Yes. Do you have a jacket? Do you have a sports jacket? Do you have that? Do you have this? And then the killer question is, because not many people had them in those days, have you got a dinner jacket? And I said, yes. And she went, really? I said, yes. And the reason I had a dinner jacket was because my father was a mason, and once a year they had ladies' night, and they took their wives to a really smart hotel in the West End, and had the dinner and dance. And of course, I had to have a dinner jacket. So my dad bought me a dinner jacket. So I had a dinner jacket, and I was at Film Artists Association, and I had a Hillman Minx car then, and I drove from Brixton over the bridge there next to the palace, past the palace, no, past Houses of Parliament, up the Mall, past the palace, and then up the Edgware Road for Elstree, or up the A40 for Pinewood. And even in those days, I was in the studios about 40 minutes from leaving my house in Brixton. That's you know, there wasn't a lot of traffic around there, and even to have a car was you know, a big deal. So and my first film was Reach for the Sky with Kenneth Moore.
Yes, Kenneth Moore.
And I played a young squaddy. And I went all the way through the film, you know, because I looked young and I looked like a squaddy and I was fit, you know, kept myself fit. And I went all the way through the film, and I really made a big thing about being a film extra, because you could become a stand-in and for people, and people seem to, I got on well with people. Stars came over and said, you know, who's that young man? They, oh, I want him to stand in for me. So I stood in for Frankie Howard, and lots of American actors came over, and I became friendly with. I also used to chat to the famous women, the famous stars. That's how I first met Diana Dawes, and then there was Ruth Roman and Linda Christian, who was married to. Anyway, she was married to a big famous star then, and of course they were alone, coming over here by themselves, and I used to talk to them. Can I get you a cup of tea? Oh no, thank you. You know, but people bring tea to them, but I chatted to them and became friendly with them, knowing that they would invite me to dinner that night at wherever they were staying. Because I would say, where are you staying? And they say, at the Ritz. Oh, the Ritz, that must be lovely. God, that's wonderful. The Ritz Hotel. Oh, how lovely. Next day I'd see her, the same thing. Hello, how are you? Oh, I'm okay. By then she knew my name. Oh, hello, Jess. Yes, are you, did you sleep well? Yes, da, 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 da. And said, no. And then she said, you know, why don't you come to dinner one night? And I said, what, at the Ritz Hotel? She said, yes. So I used to go to the Ritz Hotel and say that my name is Jess Conrad, and Linda Darnell, a guest of Linda Darnell, and they would say, yes, well, she said, go straight up to the bedroom, to her suite. So I knew then that it was going to be a rush dinner and then a much longer session in her boudoir. So that was I loved it for years. That was my little scene. I was top of the game as a film extra.
So,
and then
yeah, go on.
No, it's just that this follows on. And
Okay.
then people used to come on, and film extras never had chairs. You couldn't sit down. Although I was very popular with everybody, so I kind of stood around and watched. And somebody came on, and they had a chair with a name on, and this actor had a few lines, you know, lines. And I went, I can do that. And they said, no, you can't. I said, why can't I do that then? They said, that's a different union. That's equity. Your Film Artists Association. It was all unions then, you see. And I said, well, how do you become a member of equity? Because I didn't want to stay as a film extra all my life. Now I've tasted it. I thought I can do better than be a film extra. I can say a few words in a film. I've just watched this fellow do. So that's what happened. My last film as an extra was a film called Serious Charge. And I got what you call extra action. And I was picked out to play one of the gang. And that's when I first met Cliff Richard. It was his first starring film. And I was in the gang with him. Serious Charge. It's on Talking Pictures, like lots of my films are. I love talking pictures. And we became friends, Cliff and I. And Andrew Ray was the leading man in it. And his father was Ted Ray, a big star. But Andrew was a fine actor, but we were supposed to be a gang of spivs, which I was in real life just before then. So I could play that okay, and I could jive. I was a great mover. I used to go over to France and win jiving competitions. Au pair girls used to take me over there to win competitions, and I could dance, but Andrew couldn't move. So I actually laid on the floor where the camera couldn't see me and moved his legs so it looked as if he was moving. So that was my last film, Serious Charge, before I went off into repertory. And I went to repertory in Derby, Derby and Hornchurch. I remember my first thing at Hornchurch was Moby Dick. I played one of the sailors, and then I did another production, and then I went into rep to Charles Denville, who was a theatrical producer with the the black overcoat, dandruff always, and funny old hat, umber hat. And he was an actor producer, and his wife Lily Denville was well past the sell-by date, but she insisted on playing the leading ladies. And I was always given the smallest parts, however old or what. The smallest parts I got because I was there, I said, watch the stage, did the tea, did everything, and then played these parts. So I'm playing Mr. Daigle, and opposite Lily Denville, the wonderful Lily Denville, you know. And as I say, she was quite old then, but still playing leading ladies. And we had this entrance in this first play that I was with her, and I was all, they made me up, made my hair grey, put lines on me and everything. Lots of talcum powder on my hair, lots of it to make it go white. And then we made the entrance through the doors, and I walked in, and of course Lily Denville, and I didn't know this was going to happen. And I learned then, because then I always did it on my entrances, but she stopped. And I thought subconsciously, why she stopped? I'm still walking. And she stopped for her applause. You stop for your round of applause. So she stopped for her round of applause. I marched on forward because I thought she was by the side of me. And then because she wasn't by the side of me, I kind of looked round and tripped over the chair and fell flat on my face, putting my hands down so that I didn't go bosh. And as I looked up, I could see all this talcum powder in the air going round there. And of course, the laugh it got from the audience was incredible. I mean, the laugh came up, because by that time I was very popular with the audience, because I used to go to their houses and beg for furniture to use on the set, or cups and saucers or whatever, you know, animals for, you know, all that kind of stuff. And I was the local young boy in the rep company, and I had a following, and they laughed, and I think I sort of, you know, winked or something like that. Anyway, Charles Denville got me in the room the next day, and he said, you know, you've upset Lady Denville, Lily Denville, you know, she's a great artist. And, you know, I said, well, I didn't know she was going to stop. I said, I'll stop now when I come in. He said, no, you can't. You're not a star yet. I said, well, I'm going to stop like she did, because people clap you. Anyway, he went on and on. He said, but anyway, I'm afraid I'm going to have to sack you. Oh, Mr. Denville, I said, don't do that. He said, I'm afraid, you know, you've been a naughty boy and you've got to go. I said, all right then, well, give me the fare home. He said, I haven't got the fare home because I was struggling. I said, well, I can't afford the fare home. He said, well, then you'd have to stay. And this happened about 3 or 4 times. And then I came back to London, and I did an off-Broadway show, not an off-Broadway, but off-West End. And Monty Mackey, who was a big agent then with Al Parker, who had big stars. She looked after a lot of big stars, Robert Morley, James Robinson Justice, and big people like that, you know, big stars. And she took a liking to me, and she took me on, and she started getting me into lots of movies and things. And that's really how I started.
I'm gonna stop you there, but you've done so much. We could be on here for hours, I'm absolutely sure. But there's lots of things, obviously, that people want to hear about you. So we know how you've got into films and onto stage, but a lot of people know you for your pop career as well. So how did that all start? Because in the 60s,
well,
you had some really big hits.
Rick, it's all kind of linked. You know, I was doing these films. I was doing great films like The Boys is on Talking Pictures all the time. Yeah. And the English version of King Kong, instead of the gorilla taking, you know, a woman up at the Empire State Building, he took me, the obligatory pop star, up Big Ben, and put me down Congo. But it's probably the worst horror film ever made, but it has a cult following, as does The Boys, of course. So I made lots of movies and appeared in lots of television shows. The biggest star in the world was the girl that played Baby Doll, Carol Baker. She was bigger than Monroe, and she came over and did a Play of the Week. Now, the Play of the Week was very important, because there was, in those days, there was the London Palladium, Film of the Week and Play of the Week. And so everybody watched these sort of things. And Carol Baker was, as I say, bigger than Monroe, and she came over and chose me to play opposite her. I played the bellboy who goes up to her suite, and we jive. And I was cast because the director saw me jiving one night in Tramps with Dawes. Diana Dawes was my dearest friend. And he said I was he thought I was a good mover, and he cast me in the part. And then another player of the week came up when I played a pop star. And the idea of this pop star who was going to appear at the London Palladium is they wanted a composite face of all the best bits of the Hollywood film stars. In other words, they wanted Rock Hudson's nose, Elvis Presley's ears, you know, all the best bits of stars' faces.
Yeah.
The photographer was going to take a composite and put the face together. But he was lazy, he didn't bother to do that. He just took a picture of his younger brother, which was me, you see. So, and I became this pop star. And I get one appearance at the end of the show. I just appear at the London Palladium and we just see the face. And because it was a player of the week, everybody kind of watched it. And it was just incredible. You know, in those days, there wasn't so much going on television, and all the teenagers, and they all wanted to know who Barney Day was. And all of a sudden, I was over all the newspapers and everything like that. And unbeknownst to Monty Mackey, Al Parker, under my own steam, I found out that Jack Good, who was the Simon Cowell of that era, and produced things like Oh Boy, Wham and Boy Meets Girl, were rehearsing at a church hall in Chiswick.
And Oh Boy was the X Factor of its day, wasn't it?
Pardon?
Oh Boy was the X Factor of its day, wasn't it?
It certainly was, yes, absolutely the X Factor of its day. And when I finally did it, I was voted England's most popular singer because I won the equivalent of the X Factor. You're quite right. But before I got there, you see, I had to go through this thing of meeting him. So I arrived, and there in the church hall was Eddie Cochran, Gene Vincent, all these heroes of the rock and roll, you know. And I walked in, and Jack Good saw me, and he said, "Oh, hello." He had a very sporty voice, Jack Good. "Hello." I said, "Oh, hello, Jack." I said, what are you doing here? I said, "I'm Jess Conrad." He said, "I know who you are." I said, "Everybody knows who you are." He said, what's on your mind? And I said, "Oh, well, he said, "Well, just a minute." So he said to these big rock stars, "That'll do for the day." And he sent them all home. And they passed me through the door out of the back. Vincent walked by me, Eddie Cochran walked by me, you know, all these big stars walking by me. And then I'm left there with the Simon Cowell of that era, Jack Good. So he said, "What can I do for you?" So I said, and I was going to say to him, "Well, perhaps I could compare one of your bits, you know, come in and like, introduce somebody." And before I said that, he said, "Can you sing?" I said, "That'd be silly. No, I can't sing. No, I'm an actor. I can't sing." No, you know. He said, "Well, let me audition you anyway." So he gave me a broomstick, you know, as a kind of thing to hold, and I sang. And he said, I sang to a record, and he said, "It's true, Jess." He said, "You can't sing a note." Not what I told you. He said, "But I can make you a star by next weekend, a pop star by next weekend. I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to make you a pop star by next weekend." I said, "Mr. Good," I said, "don't make me laugh." I said, "How can you do that if I can't sing?" He said, "I want that face." And the whole thing was around my face. I was called the face of 1960. All my billing was like that. And I made records, and I won the equivalent of the X Factor with winning.
And you got quite a lucrative deal with Decca, didn't you?
That was my first deal with Decca. And in those days, of course, you had to sit in a booth, and with a 25-piece orchestra. And if the bass player dropped a note, we had to go back from the beginning. It's not like nowadays when you don't even meet the band. You sing into a microphone. And I was sitting there because my mum said, "I'm making my first record, Mum," and she gave me an apple and a banana in a box, you know, and a drink. I'm in the booth drinking, and it was anyway. It took weeks to get the record down. well, days, you know, because people kept making mistakes, then I had to sing.
And which was the first one? Was that Mystery Girl?
We had a singer called Dickie Pride, who was quite famous then, not as famous as I was, but had a much better voice, and he used to do my high notes. So unbeknownst by me, they used to ring up Dickie Pride first to see whether he was available to make a record, and then ring me. So I made lots of records, and made lots and lots of records, and I've got my Just For You. It's in the Just For You is my latest album, and you can see by this album, because it's every track I ever made on it, that my voice does improve, because by the time I got to playing Jesus in Godspell, you can't play Jesus in Godspell without having a good voice, or Joseph. And this, of course, is the record that you can buy now, Just For You. And at my tender age, I'm still making records. Isn't that fantastic?
Exactly the same.
And that's on the Cherry Red record. I was going to say pie label. If you didn't like it, you could eat it. But it's Cherry Red, Just For You.
So you've come nicely onto the fact that you played Joseph. I know that you've also played Jesus. And
Jesus was much bigger, you know, in those days. We had to play it for a month. It was such a big show, a month in each place, and of course the crucifixion and everything was a great musical. And
my family, Christ Superstar, just for anyone who's listening and watching who doesn't know, that's Jesus Christ Superstar that you were in, and Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat.
No. Yes, Godspell was when I played Jesus. It was a big hit before Joseph. It was called Godspell. Yes. It was a big hit. It was so big, people came from all over the continent to see it, and had to play for 4 weeks in the major theatres, wherever. And my family came to see it many times, and my little daughter, who was a little tot then, went to the nunnery school run by nuns. They said one day, what did their fathers do to these little 8-year-olds and things? And of course, you know, I live here in Denham Village. This was, you know, near the film studios and things, all nice places. And their fathers are very rich and famous. I had Cilla Black was 3 doors down. I had Roger Moore 4 doors down, and all of that. So she went to school, and they asked them what their fathers did. And they got to my daughter Natalie, and they said, "What does your father do?" And she said, "My father's Jesus." "Oh, Bogora," she said. "Oh, la, 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 la." No, don't be a naughty girl. Don't be a naughty girl. I'll ask you again, what does your father do for a living? Because they asked all the other girls, and they were saying, "Oh, my father owns the chemist shop. You know, my father's a doctor," because it was, this area is sort of richy people and well-to-do people. And that light's gone off, and can't have me in darkness. Anyway, so the nun put her in a room, and she was very upset, and rang my wife and said, "You better come and see your daughter. She's misbehaving herself." So my wife went to the nunnery and went into the room, and the nun said, so Rennie said, "What's the matter?" Well, she said that her father was Jesus. So my wife said, "Well, yes, he is this week, but next week he'll be Captain Hook. He's an actor, you see." Oh, I didn't understand. So that was it. And then because of the success of that, I was cast in Joseph, which of course was sensational. One of my lights have gone off.
Yeah, lights gone.
The lights have gone. Dear, oh dear.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
You look.
I'm usually lit by a strawberry, a pink follow spot. Mick Jagger, when he does concerts, he needs somebody, a doctor standing by in case he has a heart attack at great expense. All I ask for is a pink follow spot, and now it's gone off.
So he has a doctor.
So it was a great success, and then of course I've been such a lucky boy. I became a mason. because my father was a Mason, so I'm what they call a Louis, third degree Mason. And I got the freedom of the city, which was a great honour. Doesn't mean much, really. It means you can take your sheep over London Bridge. And then, of course, I became a King Rat, the Grand Order of Water Rats. And then, of course, I got my OBE, which was really...
Tell us about the OBE, because that's obviously
well, it links up with the fact that I also ran the showbiz football team. I played in goal because I get to wear a different coloured costume than anybody else. And the coach was incredible, you know. Tommy Steele, Anthony Newley, Mike and Bernie Winters, Bernie Breslau, Elfie Bass, goes on and on and on. Every star played for the showbiz 11, and I played in goal. And we played the police twice a year, Ember Court and Kensington. And we played the police twice a year, and who else would it? Oh, the Royal Household we played twice a year. Sorry, and the police at Ember Court, they played at Ember Court, the police, and so this is part of the story. So I arrive at the palace, all G's up. I'm going to get my OBE, and the man at the gate says, "Can I have documents?" What do you mean documents? I'm Jess. Look. He said, "I know you are, sir." He said, "But we need documents of proof of who you are, you know." And I didn't have that. I didn't know I had that. So he didn't want the aggravation of it. So he said, "Just go to the other gate." So I went to the other gate, and the young policeman started, and this young policeman looked, you know, he looked about 12, young. I said, "I'm Jess Conrad." He said, "I know who you are, sir." He said, when you came to play the police at Ember Court," he said, "my father put 5 past you." So I was the goalkeeper, you think. So he said, "In you go." He didn't ask me for any papers, nothing. So I went straight in, just because we played the police twice a year, as I said, at Ember Court and Kensington Palace. Had nice pictures of both places. We played them, and we also played the police. So there I am, and I got my award from the Royal Highness Princess Anne, and she was so charismatic. She had an incredible face, you know, so charismatic she was, you know, and she thanked me for the money I'd raised over my long and illustrious career. And I went, you know, I said, "What?" And I didn't know what illustrious meant. When I got home and I saw what illustrious meant, I thought, what a wonderful word, illustrious, you know. And of course, I didn't realize then that I played the Palladium so many times, and the royal family were always there. Anne was always there. Margaret mostly, because she loves show business, you know. So, you know, you don't know, perhaps these people know you more than you think they know you, or perhaps they just do their homework. Anyway, she said, had a great sense of humor. She said, "I hope you're not disappointed I'm not the Queen." I said, "No, ma'am, as long as you're not disappointed, I'm not George Clooney." And thank God she laughed, otherwise I'd have been in the Tower of London.
That's fantastic. So what year was that? What year did you receive your OBE?
I think it was 13.
2013.
2013, yes. And I mean, you know, as I say, if that boy of 12 who used to go scrumping in Brockwell Park and up to Crystal Palace to see all those monsters after the fire, and never went to school because they assumed you were killed in an air raid, you know. And after not going to school, I used to go to school every morning, but I didn't go to school. Mum gave me my 6pence for my milk, and I used to bugger off to Brockwell Park or go to the cinema, and go all over the place, And all of a sudden, the school board man came and knocked on the door about 4 months, because you know they take so long time to check up with all the people in the war and everything, the bombed houses. And he said to my mother, "I'm sorry about the demise of your boy." She said, because she was a real Cockney girl, my mum, name was Linda, and she spelled it with a Y because she thought it looked posher. And she was a South London beauty queen. She said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Demise." He said, "Well, your son hasn't been at school for 4 months." She says he bleeding well as he goes to school every day. Sling your hook, you see. So he goes off with his tail between his legs. I come in, 4 o'clock, because I used to come in at the right time. She said, how was school today, Jerry boy? I said, oh, all right, you know. She said, did Fatty Arbuckle give you the cane? Because he was a big fat teacher, used to give me the cane. He used to drop his cufflinks on the floor and says, bend down, James. And I bent down, he used to whack my ass with this cane. And I stood in the corner with the dunce's hat on. Everybody used to look at me, you know. People still look at me now, but I haven't got a dunce's hat on. And so she said, you rascal, she said, you've not been to school for months and months and months. And she said, if I was ever naughty, it was going to put me in the coal hole under the stairs. You know, we had coal holes under the stairs. Yeah. And she said, the gingerbread boy lives in there. And if I put you in there with the gingerbread boy, he's going to gobble you up. So I said to Mum then, don't put me in the cupboard with the gingerbread boy. She said, you rascal. And she threw me in the cupboard where the gingerbread boy was. And I was in there and I was petrified that this gingerbread boy was going to gobble me up. Anyway, she finally took me out, you know, and gave me a clump, which you could hit children then, you know. She gave me a good clump because, you know, the fathers were out at war, so they had to run the whole shop, didn't they? So, yeah, it's been a wonderful life, really.
Well, Princess Anne was right. You've had an illustrious career. That's a great word for it. One of the things that I've seen you in most recently, and I wanted to talk to you about, was getting together with some of your old pals in Last Laugh in Vegas.
Well, that was now only am I not a pop star, but I'm a reality star, if you like.
Indeed, I should have added that to the list.
I just had the good news that it's coming back next Sunday at 11:15 on ITV, of course. That was a great experience to become a reality star as well. And, you know, I'm a bit thick in many ways, in lots of ways, really. Not a bad looking fella, but, you know, a bit thick sometimes. Because when we got to Vegas, having been on the plane all day, I thought we were then going to go to bed. But of course, when we got there, it was morning. That's the start of the day. So we started the day with choosing the bedrooms, and, you know, I ran up the stairs first, and as long as it had a mirror in it, it's good enough for me. And then the next morning, of course, we came down to breakfast. And I had a wonderful dressing gown on because I knew it was on television. So I had a great dressing gown, and all the rest of them had dodgy old dressing gowns with holes in and things. You know, I always try and look the part. And the contract said that there was going to be a housekeeper that was going to cook and do all the ironing and stuff. Of course, so I'm sitting there, and I said, to no one in particular, just to everybody around the table, you know, that all my mates were there, Kenny Lynch, my dearest friend.
And it was also Cannonball, Sue Pollard.
Sue Pollard, my love. Yeah, all close mates. Yeah. We're all close mates. So I'm at home, you know, I'm sitting there, they're all taking the mickey out of me, excuse me, because of my dressing gown, you know, always dressed the part, Jessie. And I said, my image thinks, you know, I know what you think. You think I'm going to eat muesli, but I really fancy eggs and bacon. So I looked forward to whoever was going to make it, you know, this woman that's in the contract. And they all said, well, you better do it then. I had to do my own eggs and bacon. I said, well, I can't cook. So Sue Pollard said, I'll cook for you. And she cooked it for me. So all that bunkum about being, having this, that, and the other was all nonsense. Just, you know, so you sign the contract. Because it happened even worse when, excuse me, happened even worse when I went to see the, when I up into where they make the cowboy films, which is fantastic, you know, to meet the Native Americans. You can't call them Indians, you have to call them Native Americans, which is quite right, that's what they are. And it was a fantastic thing. The only trouble is I wore white jeans. And when I got back, the white jeans were really dirty. And so I said once again, where's the housekeeper to wash and iron my jeans? And of course, there wasn't one yet. So I thought, oh God. And then Kenny Lynch, my best mate, said, I'll wash and iron your jeans, Jesse. And I went, will you, Kipper? Because that's his code name, Kipper. There was a famous jockey called Kipper Lynch, so he took the name. Doesn't everybody thinks it's mysterious? Why do you call him Kipper? Like it's a big thing, but it isn't. It's nothing. We call him Kipper. But you can only call him Kipper if you're a close friend. So he said, "I'll do your ironing for you and wash your jeans." So I said, "Oh yeah." He said, "Fine." So he's ironing my jeans, and the television people thought it was a great idea. Kenny Lynch doing my ironing and washing. Anyway, we're doing it, and Kenny said to me, "Darling," he said. I said, "What?" He said, "Listen, darling," he said, "where do you want the crease?" I said, "Up the middle of the leg, like everybody else." I said, "Why are you calling me darling?" He went, "Don't get upset, darling." And he was a real rascal. He was pretending we were a couple, you see. I said, "You rascal." Anyway, we laughed and laughed and laughed over that. But we had lots of great times out there.
If you're going to do a reality TV show, where
yeah,
so do it than in Vegas? That's what I say.
Pardon?
I said, if you're going to do a reality TV show, it's pretty good to do it in Vegas.
Oh, isn't it wonderful? Wasn't it wonderful? I mean,
yeah.
And I did so many wonderful things. You know, I went to the hotel where Elvis worked, and because I was doing a reality show, they would have gone mad. But I walked into his bedroom and jumped on the bed, laid on the bed, and I said, "I'm lying in Elvis's bed." You know, the boy from Brixton is in Vegas in Elvis's bed. Yes, and the man nearly had a fit, you know, the man who ran the hotel, but because the camera was going, he couldn't say anything. And he showed me lots of things. There was a row of windows, and then there was underneath there was four other windows. And I said, "There's lots of windows. What are they for?" And they explained to me that the Elvis had a beautiful woman in every one of those bedrooms, and he would choose. They didn't know. The women didn't know who he was going to choose, or if he was going to choose. Sometimes he didn't choose any of them, I presume. But they were there just ready, just in case he did fancy a kiss and a cuddle. And I thought that was real show business. You know, it could only be Elvis to have
four of
the most beautiful women in bedrooms waiting for you.
Jess, were they still there for you? Were they still?
Well, they used to be there for me in bed and breakfast. Yeah. No, well, of course, you know, when I became a pop star, and I became very friendly with Billy Fury, and the very first song I sang on television was "Chicka Chicka Honey" with Billy Fury, who, apart from Cliff and Marty, was the leading boy, you know, and. So we did a duet called "Chicka Chicka Honey," and it was a great success. And anyway, I went back to became very friendly, Billy and I, because he was a real poser as well, you know. So we really hit it off. And it's funny, like a Cockney boy and a boy from Liverpool. But anyway, so I go back to the hotel. I went in the hotel, and there were birds under the bed. There were birds in the wardrobe. So the next day, didn't call them birds, then we called them chicks. So the next day I said to Billy, "Billy, you didn't tell me about the chicks, man." "Oh, yeah, the chicks, man, yeah, man, yeah, there's lots of chicks about, man, yeah, lots of chicks about, they were everywhere." So I had to get used to that kind of thing, but that's all part of being in show business, I suppose, the adulation of women.
Just earlier, you had a poster of you, which I don't think we can see anymore, but there was a poster of you at about that age. And one of the things that I wanted to mention to you was that there was a documentary, or a dramatization really, called The Joe Meek Story, in which Nigel
I played Joe Meek, yes. Yes.
Yes,
you're quite right.
Because Nigel Harmon
played me.
And anybody who's seen that picture, Nigel Harmon looks exactly like you did at that age, which is
he did, and he came here, and my wife had great sense of humor. She said to Nigel, she said, "You sure my husband never met your mum?" Because she knew I was a bit of a lad, but he wanted to know all about me, and he came round here, Nigel. And yeah, that's another. I've played so many famous people.
I wanted to say that
I'm playing Batman.
yes, well, I wanted to say that because it is remarkable. I don't think many people can say that they've played Joseph, Jesus, and Batman. So
And
I
Larry
wanted to talk
Parks.
because this illustrious, yes, this
And
illustrious
Larry Parks.
career.
And Pip in Great Expectations.
Yeah,
Oh, I've
all of
played them all.
those. It's just been absolutely incredible. But the most incredible thing is that you are still really busy. You're still fit and thank God healthy and well. So tell us about this. You playing Adam West, because again, you do look a little bit like Adam West, and I can see why they've chosen you for this part. So tell us about that.
Well,
You've got a few things going on.
I look a kind of lot like it because we got the picture and he had grey hair like I've got now, grey hair,
Mm-hmm.
and they showed me a picture of him and they said they were looking for somebody to play Adam West Batman from 60 to 80 when he was diagnosed with leukemia and he died within 4 weeks. So I sent this picture up and they booked me immediately to play Adam West. And of course it was a great thrill and I did look like him. It's a pity we can't show you the two pictures, but I did look remarkably like him.
I'll put a picture of him up underneath this interview. So when it goes up on our YouTube channel, I'll put the picture up.
Simon
And
Withington
Nigel Harman as well.
Simon Withington will send you the two pictures side by side.
Yeah, we'll
and
put those
then
up.
you'll see how the casting director saw it and couldn't get on the phone quick enough. So that was quite nice, and that's not come out yet. It's called the Autopsy of Adam West, and then I've got Pointless coming out, and then I've got When Pop Stars Go Horribly Wrong, Channel 5. That's a very popular show. And then I've got all my concerts that have been cancelled that Seb will be given back to me once this is all over. And thank God we start football next week because at least I can watch football. I'm already back playing golf, so I'm playing golf. And I've got 3 acres of land here and a swimming pool, so I can walk up and down the garden without going out there and have a swim.
That's fantastic.
So, I've not done bad for a boy from Brixton. I've not done bad, really.
Done brilliantly, and you are still doing brilliantly. I did want to quickly mention, because I want to talk about your book, because I'm going to be agenting your book, which I believe is going to be called From Blitz to Glitz. So we'll talk about that in a moment. But very, very quickly, I did want to talk about somebody who's just recently passed away, who I know was a good friend of yours, Ricky Valance. So would you like to say something about Ricky?
Well, Ricky, of course, was a real icon of the 60s. He had a #1 record that was such an iconic #1 record because it was never repeated. Tell Laura I love her. He never had the same success again, but he lived a great life with that record, and we toured so many times together. He was a Welsh boy, but spoke with a moody American accent. Here we are. I don't know whether you can see that.
Yeah, you can see that.
I've got my shirt off because I look better with naked, and that's Ricky up there.
You could have done that today, Jess. You could have done that today.
And that's the band. But that was Ricky, bless him. And and he was a true icon of the 60s. A true icon of the 60s. He did a great act. And he had this name, Ricky Valance, which was really like another rock and roll star's name in America. But it was the time when, this is before the Beatles came along, when people had much stronger images. When I first saw the Beatles, I thought they looked like the Three Stooges, the funny hats and the funny clothes. Whereas pop stars in my era had to, look like pop stars, like the cat suit came in, but Ricky was always very smart and cowboy boots and did a great act. And I tweeted him on my Twitter this week, and it had such a big reaction I didn't know it was going to have that big a reaction
No,
for
and I
Ricky.
know, and I knew you wanted to, you would want to
And
see
I'm
it
so
as
pleased
well.
about that. And you know, it's a great loss for everybody,
It's
really.
a great loss. And,
He had dementia and died in a home, and it's very sad. But then, you know, I've lost a lot of friends recently, and Ricky's another one to go.
well,
My
thank God you are fit
friends are
and
getting
healthy,
smaller and smaller.
and we are going to we're going to be pushing your wonderful book from Blitz to Glitz. So anything that we could have covered so much in this, we could have gone on for absolute hours. But
By the way, we had lots of things for it. It was going to be called The Boy from Brixton. Then it was going to be Who's a Naughty Boy. Then it was Not Just a Pretty Face was quite a good title. So we had lots of titles, and we came up from Blitz to Glitz because I was in the Blitz, and I have a wonderful picture that I'm going to use in the book with me as a little boy standing, you know, dressed up for war, because my father was in the war like every father was. My dad was never around. That's why I was so close to my mum, like most boys are anyway. But the fact that there was no father. In fact, when Dad came back from the war, I thought, you know, who's this? He's getting in the way of me and Mum, you know. So that was rather odd, really. But yeah, the war years. So Blitz to Glitz is, I thought, quite a good title. But by the time we get the book out, it'll probably be something else altogether. But
well, I
it's still
think
a good trying time to write it.
Blitz to Glitz is a perfect title. I think that Princess Anne was absolutely right. You have, I'm not going to say you have had an illustrious career, because you're still having it, but I'm very,
Well,
very
yeah, I
proud.
mean, it does go on and on. I mean, there's a wonderful agent called Patsy Martin
Yes,
who puts celebrities like myself on the cruise ships. And that's another string to my bow. You know, you go on the cruise ships, um, you lay around for 2 weeks in the sun, and then one day you have to do 2 shows, and you just talk to the audience. You tell them like I'm talking to you now, and probably more relaxed because, you know, on a ship you're more relaxed and you're laying there and you're just talking to people. So it's another string to my bow. But yes, yeah, I suppose it has been illustrious. So, and what an amazing thing for her to say, though.
yeah, it is, but she's absolutely correct. And this has been a real pleasure. Not just this interview, Jess, but it's a real pleasure knowing you anyway. And our paths cross so many times, and I'm very glad.
They have. You're always at these showbiz functions.
I know.
And now I'm almost in Fox's den because this light's gone off, so I'm getting closer so you can see my face.
Yeah,
But it's nice to know that you're doing so well, and thank you so much for asking me to do this. And I hope I was okay. I mean, these are a whole new things doing in show business. Who'd ever think that I would be doing this in show business? You know, you usually go to a studio and get made up, and you know, take 1, take 2, take 3. We're doing this all live. Whatever I've said is now going to go out, even if I think some of it may be a bit risque. Or you may think of it, some of it might be a bit risque, but I don't think so. I think I behaved myself.
I think you have. I think you have behaved yourself, and it's been a real pleasure. Please, you and Renee, your lovely wife Renee, who I've also met, please stay safe
60
during this
years,
period.
60 years married, and the amazing thing is she still loves me.
That is amazing.
And
That
they
is
say to her,
amazing.
how can you be happily married to Jess Conrad for 60 years? She said, it's easy if you're both in love with the same man.
Okay, on that note, I am going to
Sorry,
bid you
56 years.
farewell.
Sorry.
I'm going to bid you farewell, because unfortunately we've got to bring this to an end, even though I really don't want to. But Jess Conrad OBE, what an illustrious career you're having. Thank you very, very much. And I will make sure that everybody's watching you on TV. Everyone will want to see Pointless and you as Adam West, and it will carry on. Thank you very much,
Thank you
sir.
so much. It's been a great pleasure talking to you. We must do this again.
We will.
Must do
I
the
promise.
second installment.
When I finally had my hair cut and I look a little.
Yeah, when I got no hair, my daughter shaved it all off because I said I'm not going to be working till probably Christmas or even after Christmas.
Well,
so anyway, crazy days.
I'm starting to look like Gandalf, so I'm looking forward to the barbers. JESS CONRAD OBE, thank you very, very much. Stay safe.
God bless you. God bless you. Thank you.